Thank you very much for that, Rabbi. And let's continue through. We have 150 people online, and I think we still have about 20 more questions, hands up. So I'm going to try and go to the next one. I have Maria and then Richard. Maria, your microphone is now open. Go ahead, Maria.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, I'm speaking to you tonight on behalf of Livante Developments, and Livante are the builders who are building 14 homes on north side of Cummer, directly north of this site. I'll be as brief as I can. Livante is building 14 homes. They're 43 feet to 61 feet. It's 16 units per hectare. And Levante's comments through me tonight are not about the moral argument or the need to help or about the business case. There is no argument on both of those points. The point, though, is compatibility of development, not about who the tenant is. And I want to just quickly bring Levante's point to you. This development, as far as I can tell, I heard that there has been a site plan submitted, is about 0.5 hectares. And it comprises 64 bachelor or studio units. That's 128 units per hectare. That is not a low-rise density. This is a site in the middle of the neighborhood, not near an arterial road, in the middle of the neighborhood. It's not mixed use. It's not apartment neighborhood designation. Given the number of units and the size, this represents something that in Levante's view is not compatible. And the question of how this could be viewed as compatible when, you know, there's been a lot of conversation in the last number of years about how the city of Toronto has addressed its neighborhoods or you know, the yellow lands, the lands inside of the mixed use and apartment designations in the middle of neighborhoods like where this site is located. And whether you agree with it or not, and I could go off on a side tangent about that, but whether you agree with it or not, the city has very strenuously enforced and defended homogeneousness, if you will, in these areas. And to the point where we see single family homes not being approved because they don't match the adjacent homes. Livante started off with 16 lots, couldn't get city support for 16 lots. It is at 14 lots. We see townhouse developments in the neighborhood designation that don't get city support because they don't fit the neighborhood. And so really the question for Livante is putting to you tonight is how is the density compatible with this site being in the interior of a neighborhood, not near an arterial road, not in a mixed use or apartment neighborhoods designation at 128 units per hectare. And so really Levante's concerns to you is compatibility. In their view, there is a serious disconnect in compatibility with the city's own approach and process and intention and many staff reports on what is compatible and what is not. And I also asked, I noted earlier that a site plan has been submitted. Is it possible for the community to get a copy of that? I did see that there was Kevin, you put up a conceptual plan. Is it possible to get a copy of the site plan? That would be helpful. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for that. And I can appreciate that some of the information is being submitted and studies are being submitted and they continue to be submitted to the city's planning department. We've got Giulio Cescato on the line. He's the manager of community planning for this particular area. And we also have some other policy folks on the line. And I know that this application is still a moving target, and you may not feel comfortable speaking about the specifics of the application. But Giulio, do you want to at least address the whole issue of how this will be assessed and weighed by the city department?
Sure. And I think I'll just take the last question first, which was if you want to copy the site plan, you can actually find it on the city's application information center. So just encourage anybody who wants a copy of any of the studies or any of the architectural drawings, they can go to the AIC and they can find it there. And I'm sure the contact information at the end of the presentation that was provided could be put back up later, and you can contact the planners working on it and they'll be happy to direct you to the AIC if you can't find it on your own. But I think question's a good question. And when we look at the neighborhood policies, in particular, whether or not an application complies with sort of the type and whether it complies with the prevailing context, the OP provides us direction on that, right? And it says it directs us to setbacks, it directs us to landscape areas, it directs us, of course, to the prevailing type, but it also provides some pretty detailed criteria on how to look at that. You look at the wider neighborhood context, then you look at a narrow context. And in areas where there's significant discrepancy between the two, then you take the narrow context as what you were to look at on both sides of the street. And I think the way the city would look at this is to look at the uniqueness of the site. I mean, although it is in a neighborhood, certainly, the build form that's on there right now is 4 stories. It's a larger development. It's adjacent to a larger development. Would these proposed projects, are they of a similar height? Are they of a similar type? Are they maintaining setbacks? Are they maintaining landscape character? And providing you can, check those boxes and looking again at the larger criteria, the narrower criteria, arrive at a conclusion that it complies or doesn't comply with the OP. I mean, that's the approach I would take. And I think there are probably some compelling arguments as to why this application would fit within the neighborhood criteria. So I'll leave it there for now, but I don't know if Sharon would as our policy manager of policy, would add anything more to that.
Thanks, Julia. I'll just add one comment, maybe just to reinforce Julio's comments, in that to Julio's points, within the neighborhood designation, which is where this site lies, there is very clear policy acknowledgement that there are sites within neighborhoods that are different. They're different size or different configuration, and that there are opportunities for infill development on those sites that are respectful both of the surroundings, but also the development that currently exists on the site. So to Julio's point, there's some guidance and direction in the official plan, which helps us evaluate a form and scale and location of building on lands that can meet the neighborhood policy objectives.